Restaurant Unstoppable, episode 698 with Iliana de la Vega. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, Chef Iliana de la Vega. Are you feeling unstoppable today?
Of course.
I cannot wait to dive into your story. I mean, there's lots of peaks and valleys in this one, so it's going to be a roller coaster. Get ready for it. So Iliana and Ernesto married in Mexico City shortly after moving to, say it for me,
Oaxaca,
where Iliana had a deep family roots and where she wanted to open a restaurant specializing in Oaxacan cuisine. The restaurant flourished until 2006 when the community experienced a period of political unrest, causing Iliana and Ernesto to sell their restaurant and move back to the United States. Not long after their arrival into Austin, Texas, Ernesto began planning the say it for me.
Naranjo. No worries.
trailer as the first step to learn about the Austin market and its culinary scene while you were teaching at the Culinary Institute in San Antonio.
That's right.
Then in 2012, El Naranjo, I want to say El Naranjo, but I know I'm not saying it right.
You're
apologize.
perfect.
Restaurant and bar finally opened, and they consistently have been recognized as one of Austin's best traditional Mexican cuisines, if not the best. And there's just, like I said, so many peaks and valleys to your stories of success and starting over and then up and down, and it's going to be a good one. But before we dive into your story, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Well, it's just like hard work and really be true to myself. And be honest, that's what we have done through the years.
How has that served you?
Oh, it's hard work. I definitely can tell you that. It has been like 3 beginnings. So it has been a lot of work.
Yeah. There's so much to strive for. Like, I feel like society puts a lot of pressure on us to strive for, like, quote unquote success or material things. And you can achieve those things, but if you achieve those things without being true to yourself, it's almost like, what was it for?
Yeah, you're not happy. You're not a happy person.
But when you stay true to yourself, like, you could be at the bottom of the bottom, right? But at least you know who you are. And
we have been.
There's something to be said about that. And that's a great way to get this thing started. So you're from Mexico City, correct?
Right.
But you have roots, your family roots in
Oaxaca. Yeah, my mom was from Oaxaca, and
okay.
I have big family there.
So take us through to your early days when you decided that you were going to get involved in culinary. When did you know that this was going to be your path?
I mean, it was since very young I liked to cook. My mom was an extremely good cook, so I cooked with her. She let me damage a lot of things sometimes. And my dad loved to eat. So it was a good combination because we eat a lot of home, but also we went outside, to anything, like from the very fancy restaurants to the very, hole in the wall, and we travel for food. My dad put us, like he had the feel of wanting something that went for, certain thing from, something antojito in Mexico. So we drove. With him and, spend the weekend over somewhere else and then come back home and everything was normal. So it was a passion for food at home. In general. So, I mean, I have the cliche story, like I like to cook, because my mom was a very good cook. Now, my mom didn't support that. She was a chemist. No, she was a chemist. Okay. So it's like, no, I want my daughter to have a career.
Well, that explains why she's probably such a great cook.
Involved, right? Right. But no, it was more like, she was very advanced on her time. And the time we're talking about is that when I was growing up, it was not fancy to be a chef. I mean, not even known much about it. It was restaurants, not chefs.
Yeah, it was a low, like a, what's the word? Almost like the bottom of the food chain job.
Yes, exactly. Right? It's like, no, why do you want to be there? You want to own your restaurant, that's a different thing. But if you want to be a cook,
it was a last resort. It wasn't what you aimed for.
I want you to go to college and such. So I started like 6 different careers, never finished one. And at the end, it was like, okay, I started doing a little bit of catering from my home, teaching classes and things like that. That's how I started into the cooking.
Okay. So you started with catering.
Catering and cooking classes, teaching.
Teaching. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Can you timestamp this for us to give us an idea of like how much time?
I did the cooking classes and all that. The one for like about 6 years in Mexico City. Okay. Then we moved to Oaxaca. And over there, we did a bunch of different things at the beginning. And then we decided to get super crazy because we didn't have any experience on opening a restaurant or owning a restaurant.
Before opening your first restaurant, you literally did not work in a restaurant except for the
never.
teaching. You knew food.
I knew food, but nothing running of a restaurant.
But not anything regarding business.
No, not at all. Okay. So I'm not the brain into this operation. I'm the feeling in the kitchen. My husband is the brain of the operation, essentially, and work together. You know,
I think it's refreshing to hear you say that, because I think when people are looking to get into this industry, they think they have to be good at everything, and that's just not realistic. And you need, I don't know in today's market if you can do it without a business partner, unless one of those freaks that are good at everything, which is likely not the case. Like, you need somebody who offsets you, and it sounds like that was your husband.
Yeah, and I mean, and he's a good cook too, so he can do on his own. But the one with the more passion at that moment, and he actually he's an architect, but he left his career and followed me on this path. So we have been working together for so many years now.
So dive a little bit more into your partnership, the yin and the yang to it, where you're strong, where he's strong, where you're weak, where
he's strong on mostly everything, but not the social skills. He's not very good with people.
Okay.
So that is not his part. I like people. I love people, and I also love food, but we both share that. But he's good with numbers and planning and all those things.
Super
that
important.
I am not.
Yeah.
I don't want to be.
The
I don't want to
details, right?
be. Yes, exactly. All those things, I don't want to know how much costs this or that. You know, I don't care. He's the one who's like, no, that we can afford, or let's go for that. You know, that's the one who chooses those things.
That's a crucial role.
Oh, yeah. Or even in some ways, I mean, we were very naive when we opened the restaurant, honestly speaking. We thought it was more about the food, which is very important, but it's all about around the food.
Yeah, you know, I actually had this argument. I went to a chef's summit, and I had this argument with a room full of chefs, and I did not win the argument in that room. But I agree with what you're saying. Like, at the end, you're opening a restaurant. I hope you can cook.
Yes.
You know, that's a given. But can you do everything else, right?
Yeah.
And it's the everything else that will make or break you. You need to have a good food. Like, that's expected.
Yeah, that's expected. But it's not necessarily. I mean, how many times, and don't tell me, how many times you go to a restaurant and it's not even good food. But the place is packed. It's like, I mean, they have a good sense of a place, I guess, or
honestly,
what the people are trend or whatever is happening, but it's not necessarily about good food either.
I'll be the first person to admit that I can go to a restaurant and I'm not necessarily, like, as long as the food's okay, but the people that are working there are amazing, you know, like, that will make me come back. It's the relationship. Do you agree or disagree?
I won't come back. I won't come back. Okay. So I don't agree with that. Right? No, I really like good food.
So let's go into your first experience opening this restaurant. What was the vision?
Like to serve Mexican. I mean, what I found in Oaxaca when I was there is that there was great food in the homes, but not too much in the restaurants. So it's like, okay, why don't you cook like I cook at home, or my mom used to cook at home, all the Oaxacan recipes, and just present it in a restaurant way, because I had a lot of experience dining out.
Okay.
You know, Mexico and elsewhere, you know, we travel a lot and we go to fancy restaurants. So like just to present it in a different way, not as family style, not very rustic, even it's very rustic food. So we started that way. And soon we learned that, you know, not everything was about the food. It was about many other stories and many other things that were happening, because what happened at the beginning in Oaxaca is like the locals refused to eat with me because I was a foreigner for them. I mean, I was an outsider from Mexico.
Outside from like that
I wasn't
region?
born. I wasn't born in Oaxaca.
Okay.
I was born in Mexico City.
Now, is Oaxaca mostly indigenous, or?
I mean, there is a lot of indigenous people, but you know, the city of Oaxaca, you can find people from anywhere in the world.
Okay.
And that was changing exactly when we were there.
Okay.
So it was interesting to see all those things. But then very soon we began to be accepted and actually become the best restaurant in Oaxaca, you know, like serving Oaxacan food by all the foreigners. And Oaxaca lives on tourism.
What things were you doing to become accepted?
I mean, I guess I was doing things that I believe in mostly. Again, you know, true to myself.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't cook with lard, for example. So I was almost, you know, like killed, you know, for heresy in Oaxaca because I was not cooking with lard. And but the people everywhere, everyone else was appreciating that. And the reason it was not for health, it was more for flavors. Why you make, you know, this salsa or this mole that it took you, you know, these hours or whatever, building flavors, and then put them, you know, mask them a little bit with the lard, which has a fantastic flavor. I love it, but not with everything.
Yeah.
So it was, I mean, and that was my way of cooking, and not necessarily the way my mom used to cook, and not the way the traditional cooking is. And interestingly enough, you know, I came to the States, went back, And the people there is like, now they're not cooking with lard, they're cooking with this. Or so it's like, oh, interesting, you know. At the beginning, they were wanted to kill me. Now it's all accepted.
Okay. So you said that the thing that you started doing, or what made you accept it, was your trueness to yourself, right? And I think that when we go someplace when we're the new guy or girl, right? People don't know us yet. It takes that time to develop trust, and I think if you're authentic to yourself, that speeds things up, does it not?
Right. I mean, it takes time, but it pays off.
Yeah. But you also said that you recognize there's a bunch of things. I mean, you were doing food well from the very beginning, but what you weren't doing well was running the business. Can you get specific? Can you identify a few things, knowing what you know now, reflecting back at yourself, the things that you were doing then that kind of make you giggle at the past version of yourself, what you were doing wrong?
I mean, there were things that you start learning. For example, in those days, bringing a cheap plate to a table, it was not accepted, for example. But we had tons of clay plates and things. So once it was one chipped, you had to trash it, right? Now it's all acceptable, all those things. But, steps that you have to go through. Again, open the restaurant, and I had this sugar that we call in Mexico second-class sugar because it's a little bit more brown, right? Well, not talking about those things, but anyway. And now everybody's that they want to use, and it's even more expensive because the turbinado or one of those, right? But that day it was like, no, that was not accepted, and
so
things
it's like
like
the
that.
little details.
The little details here and there that you don't think when you're opening. You think everything is about the food.
Yeah.
No, it is about training your service. It's like that they understand what they're doing and why we are doing it.
Okay.
Why we're serving this or that, the training.
You weren't giving your employees the why. You weren't going deep with your employees, with your servers, and maybe educating them.
A little bit, because it's different. In Mexico, for example, many people, we have to train the servers from scratch. A lot of people will come to us with really wanted to work but didn't know how to in a restaurant environment. So we had to teach them. I mean, things that they didn't think of before. And you encounter on the way.
Yeah.
And then once they were trained, they're wonderful. And because the service in Mexico is always fantastic.
Yeah.
It's very welcoming. It's very warm.
Naturally hospitable.
Yeah. Yes.
So you opened. What year did you open? It was the mid 90s or late 90s?
We opened in. Let me think. Again, yeah, it was 1997, 96, somewhere there.
Okay, and you said. And my research, it took until about 2003, right, for you to really catch your stride and catch your identity and start getting
more
national
people. Yes,
recognition.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. National and international recognition.
So, what were the 2 or 3 biggest things that changed during '97 and 2003 that had the biggest impact? Not necessarily the press you got, but what you did to be able to handle that type of press.
I mean, essentially, I had to say, even you don't want to hear that, it was the press. It was to be on the New York Times. When the New York Times wasn't traveling. Now you get, from the most remote town in somewhere, you get a review from that place.
Yeah.
It was not the time. I mean, we're talking about 2000 or 2001. And I got a cover, on the dining section of the New York Times.
Okay, and that's where things
got crazy. It started getting crazy, but still, I mean, we could handle. It was. I mean, we were good, honestly speaking, and it was a beautiful place.
I love it,
and all that, So we had all our lives planned, for the future.
Yeah.
Even retirement was in our plans, and I mean, soon retirement and all those things that, of course, didn't work that well.
Yeah, well, we'll get into what ended up happening, but before we get there, I'm just curious. Any lessons, just reflecting back, things that you learned the hard way, that you would have, if you could prevent somebody today from making that same mistake that you made during the early days opening their restaurant? What were those things? What were the lessons you learned the hard way?
I mean, it was like at the beginning I wasn't trusting myself, for example, in the way that I should be in the kitchen, or really, I mean, so I hired cooks. Yeah, confidence, because I didn't have the experience, I knew the recipes, I know how to cook them, but I didn't feel like comfortable doing it in a larger scale.
Yeah.
So I guess if from day one I should have been in the kitchen, it could have been better.
So where were you on day one if you weren't in the
kitchen?
kitchen?
I was there, but not necessarily like overseeing everything. I was just tasting and things like that. But there were things that I wanted to do somehow, and they suggested me to do another one. I was like, okay, let's do that way. And I mean, it's back and forth until you feel like secure about what you're doing.
Yeah, but I think it's natural that you didn't really feel
Right.
confident because you didn't.
No,
never had a
even
professional
coming out
experience.
from a cooking school. I
Yeah.
mean, you still don't have the confidence to be like running a restaurant.
Yeah.
Honestly speaking,
That's-
you
that
have to
takes-
work
that takes
it.
time. It
You
takes
have
time
to
and
work
experience.
it. But so a few months later, I got into the kitchen. It's like no. I had to be there and really come out with what I really think it should be the food. You know.
So, what do you think is a secret to gaining confidence?
Just experience, that's the only thing, and just get into it. It's like the first time, I never learned English practically, I never studied properly. And it's like when the first days is like you're more embarrassed, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to make mistakes, but I want to make my own mistakes. And it's like, okay, let's go into it. And
Yeah, I mean, that's
it.
how you learn how to cook is through mistakes. Like,
Yeah.
you try things,
Everything
whoops,
in
that
life,
didn't come out
right?
good.
Everything
Next
in
time-
life.
Yeah, next time less salt, right? So 2003, early 2000s, you're getting national recognition. Things are humming. You're one of the best restaurants in this area, if not the best. I wasn't there.
Yeah,
but
no, I know. Yeah, but yes.
It seems like good things were happening. 2006 rolls around. What's going on in Mexico around 2006?
Many things. There was federal elections, and also we had a different party in power in the state of Oaxaca and also in Mexico, the federal one. So there was a kind of a battle always with those things. So they didn't get the support. It was a lot of, I would say corruption in certain things. As the teachers strike, I love the teachers. I think they should deserve everybody in Mexico to get better paid. I don't necessarily agree with the blockages of the streets and the protests in that way, like harming others. You should be like able to protest and declare what you want, but in a more
Civil
pacific
way.
and a civil way
Yeah.
without harming others. So they blocked the streets in, that was, coming from like 30 years by then. So by now it's like 40 something years, that they keep doing those protests every year. On and on. Every time in May, you will have a protest starting the 15th, which is the Teachers' Day. And that year, get conflicted with the federal government and all those things, and the things get out of control. So they created what this was called the APO, and the APO took the streets, and they began to be a little bit more aggressive, not violent, because it was not really, but sometimes yes. They blocked the streets, they burn, and they put barricades and such. It was hard to run a business that way.
Nobody's
And-
going on vacation. Even locals aren't going to go out.
No, and
'cause-
especially, like a revolutionary tourism, it's not in fashion yet.
Yeah. So can you give me a sense of like how much business you lost, or like where were your numbers, like percentage wise, like how much of a hit did you take?
That was my husband, but I can tell you, from being a, fully organized restaurant and being very busy, went to having one lunch one day, one soup, and that was it on the day.
One lunch and one soup. in
Yeah, and
a
it was
day?
that guy just ate one soup. I remember that.
Oh yeah.
So it went like from being on the top to nothing, because it was hard to get there where we were. The location. It was then the tourists stopped coming because they were, it was bad.
Yeah, and you put almost 10 years of your life into
Yes,
building
into
this
this,
business.
exactly.
And this is going to be your
And-
retirement, and you
And
scaled to
normally,
this point.
and normally you think, we knew that there was, this protest coming and these strikes, and we were ready for them, like, oh, maybe we take vacation, and normally we did. Once they decided when it was the blocking,
Time
so
to
we
go on
take,
vacation.
2 weeks off or whatever, and
Yeah.
that was it. Came back. But this was going on and on and on, and we were
How
like,
long
no.
did it last?
Started on May and end up in, December.
Okay, wow.
So by the end of the year, we were running out of money because we have invested, a lot of money in the restaurant and also other projects that my husband had. So we didn't have any capital.
Yeah, that's 7 months. That's a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time.
With no cash flow.
Well, we didn't have any cash flow at that moment. We spent it all. We didn't want to make any of our employees suffer. So we keep paying them no matter what. And then at the end, it's like, okay, we took care of everybody but ourselves, so our family. So we were running out of of money completely. And so it's like, let's time to think about it again.
Did you have any money put away at this time? Were you
And
saving?
no,
Oh.
no. At that moment, it was invested in some, other things that, like, my husband was, building some
Yeah, you're
houses
trying to build
and things.
assets and stuff
Exactly.
like that. It's
So
smart.
everything was there, but we didn't have any money, like, in cash.
Where were you emotionally at this point?
Bad.
Yeah.
Worried
What's
about
bad?
my daughters. At that moment, it was like worried about my family. Like, what are we gonna do now? start from all over, cut costs somewhere. It's like we cannot make it. We cannot pay the rent anymore. So it's time to think on something. And somebody called is like, why don't you come to the States and we will make something happen.
So was this somebody who came and experienced your restaurant?
Yes.
Who knew you had something
Yes.
and that it would do really well up here?
Yep. And so we came to the States. It was not my dream. I mean, I've been very grateful to be in this country, in my country now. But
it was your dream?
It was not. It was not. I
Okay.
was very happy in my country, honestly speaking, in Mexico. And so we moved to the States. We went to New Mexico for a little bit, which was this project that never happened. But we ended up again, like after a few months, with all of us with green cards and everything ready to work, but we were not able, we didn't have a job. So I was when I was called by the CIA. At the same time, a friend of ours, it's like, why don't you come to Austin and stay with me? Meanwhile, you figure out what to do. And I was like, yeah, but we are 4 of a family and 3 dogs, so that's not easy. It's like, yeah, come over anyway. So, so we did. And at the same time, I got the job from the CIA, and so that's a little bit of the story. But
And I'm happy you're stopping here because I just need to reflect on this real quick. And I think when we think about assets, we think about money, right? And physical possessions, right? But who we are is an asset. The value we create in ourselves is an asset. Our reputation is an asset. And you built up all these assets, your reputation, your knowledge, your value. You became a person of value, right?
Thank you.
And you have all these, and you have all these relationships too. People recognize the value in you. And so when the stuff hits the fan, right? When things turn south, when they go bad, you still have all these things. And I think that's the importance of integrity and staying true to yourself.
So, yeah.
Because no matter, you can survive anything. And I think you're living proof of that because of who you are. And people we're going to take care of Iliana. They're going to be okay.
Yep.
And I think
it happens.
that just the value of integrity and the value of becoming a person of value just cannot be overlooked. And I want to make an example of you in this moment because of that, because that's incredible.
Well, thank you for mentioning. It's hard to think about like about ourselves in that way, but yeah, you're right.
Well,
I think so.
Well, thank you for being an example to me. So
thank you.
One quick break to thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back to dive into how you turn things around and got your new start. This episode brought to you by MarginEdge. Never deal with a paperwork nightmare again. We're back, and you just kind of painted the picture for us. You came to the States first to New Mexico. That didn't work out, and now you're in Austin, Texas, and you're working down at the
San Antonio.
Oh, sorry, you're working down at San Antonio, the Culinary Institute of America. How did that opportunity present itself to you?
Well, there were people that I met in Oaxaca. The people from the CIA, and they called me. It's like, we're opening this campus in San Antonio. We would like you to come and join us and create the program, the Latin or the Mexican program. So it's like, oh my God. That was like a big name.
Side note, it blows my mind. It took until 2012 for them to even have like this segment in their curriculum. But sorry, keep going.
Anyway, they have in the regular curriculum, there was something special. Like they wanted the campus to be focused more on the Latin foods and Mexican especially. So I came on board. I went to do, it's like, the first thing I was when my big interview, when what is now the pre-bust, it's like, okay, Mark, so why are you calling me? I don't have any formal training or anything like that. And he said, well, that's exactly what we want, to have the real Mexican food presented and, like to explain to the students and all that. And then they can build from there or whatever. They can do whatever they want,
In most cultures, tradition doesn't really have that much formality.
No, but it does in Mexico, definitely.
Yeah,
so.
Okay.
Anyway, so it's not recognized as, or it wasn't until 2010, and we can get there later, that it was recognized by the UNESCO about the heritage of the world, the Mexican gastronomy. Anyway, so I began to work with them, and mostly was research. That was the 5 years I worked for them. It was a great job. And I travel, like photographing, documenting, and other things throughout Mexico and some countries in Latin America as well.
That must be amazing.
It was a good job. I can't complain. Traveling a lot, studying a lot, being in libraries and things like that, just studying and developing recipes. Because it was one thing is I think this is the way it should be cooked, and another way is somebody else. So I grabbed, like maybe if I was writing a recipe for them, let's say just one recipe, I took like at least 5 sources to check on them. And then come up with one for them for the school.
I got you. So, I mean, so this is another example of becoming a person of value, right? You're going out there and you're learning for the school, but you're also absorbing all this knowledge on your own.
Of course.
So
I mean, I cannot just like, this is for the work and this is for me,
exactly.
So, but I created something of real value there.
Now, while you're at the CIA in San Antonio, Ernesto, meanwhile, is in Austin.
Here in Austin,
with a food truck.
Right.
And what was going on there?
Well, we started the food truck. We had a partner in our former El Naranjo here in Austin. We had a partner. He invested some money, and meanwhile, we get the permits because Austin is not easy to get permits.
What advice do you have for getting that money and getting the permits?
Okay, this person, our former partner, we met in Oaxaca. We did his wedding and things like that. So he looked for us when we moved to the States. It's like, okay, what are you doing? We should do something, together and such those things. So we finally get on a sort of agreement, and he bought this place on Rainy Street. Before Rainy is Rainy, what it is now, and it's like in the meantime, it was almost 2 years to get the permits. So in the meantime, it's like, okay, I have a big truck over there, like a trailer sort of thing. So why don't we start doing something with it? It's like, okay, sure. So that's how we started with the trailer.
So from 2012 to 2014, you were trying to get your permits? Or
No, it was 2010.
Okay, gotcha.
2012.
Got you.
So we had the trailer. I mean, we remodeled the trailer because it was just an empty box. And, do the whole thing. And we park it right there on Rainy. Meanwhile, we get the permits.
So what were you trying to accomplish with the food truck, aside from obviously trying to make some money?
Trying
to make some money.
Of course.
But you're also, were you testing the market?
A little bit of everything. Okay. A little bit of everything. But yeah, it was like, okay, check out how our food goes well here, if the people like or what they like and things like that. So we tried many things. There's the Mexican gastronomy is so vast that you can go anywhere, Yeah.
Do you have advice for how to test the market?
No. It was just like, okay, what is selling and what is not selling, what the people say.
Just try things, right?
Yeah, like just try
track
things.
The numbers,
and track the numbers. And my husband is very good with that.
Okay.
Like seeing the flow, like every year, like around this time, this happens here in Austin or that happened in Oaxaca or whatever.
What were some of your biggest challenges with restaurant number 2? Because now you have a clean slate. Right?
Yep.
You're starting from scratch.
Right.
What were some of the challenges that you experienced coming into the States, into Austin, with this market? Go through that.
Okay, well, expectations was one. When we opened the trailer, for example, it was interesting because the people, even though it was a trailer, I had such a big name, if you will. I mean, it feels bad to say it, but anyway.
I understand. You're very humble.
So the people is like, okay, why you don't have service, like servers here? It's like, this is a trailer, this is a food truck. Why there are flies? It's like, we're outdoors.
Yeah, this is
so
awesome.
things like that are like normal, and the people didn't get it, So that was complicated a little bit, but anyway. And then challenges with the restaurant. We spend a lot of time. It was a challenge. It was a roller coaster. There was nothing in Rainy. Basically, there were a couple of bars.
It was more of a night scene, wasn't it?
No, it was not even that.
I wasn't here then. So
there were 2 bars only. Okay. And one restaurant, it was the Garage Mahal, that looked like a trailer, but it was more like it had the license for being a restaurant anyway. So, and that was it. Well, and the IHOP in the corner. So there was not much around. And we started, and we were successful. Then opened another bar next to us. It was the Eisenhower's. And from there began to grow more bars, but also construction started. And that was horrible because people, and then the key bar that it was, started Rainy, left because the lot was sold to, somebody to make a condominiums or whatever. And the construction started. So we were like already getting somewhere, and it's like, whoa, bye again, to start again. There was people, we found people in events and things. It's like, oh, but you closed. It's like, no, we're open. I mean, like barely open, but we're open.
So you were open for business.
Yes.
With this food truck or like trailer.
Uh-huh.
Service counter or counter
yes.
service. Sorry.
Uh-huh. Then we moved to a restaurant.
You were scaling things. Business was picking up. Construction happened.
Though that happened,
moved.
sorry, I didn't make the distinction. And then we opened the restaurant. So we opened the restaurant
so now you
in
have
May.
The brick and mortar
yes,
now.
we have the brick and mortar, and we're doing well,
and
very well.
How many years in business before this event of the construction?
Maybe a couple. Maybe
so 2012 you start.
Like 2014 or so.
2 years in.
By then I just left my job at the San Antonio, and I was just full-time committed to the restaurant, and the business began to raise up, and we were doing well. I mean, obviously, you have to learn again. At the beginning you tend to have too many servers, too many cooks, too many this and that because you're gonna do great since day one, and that is a big mistake. But I mean, you learn by experience that you have to have a less amount but very good ones.
So you're saying that the mistake was having too many people on early on because your labor expenses are through the roof.
Yes, exactly.
And then you slowly started to downsize. You kept the good people.
So things like that, that happen at the very beginning, and that you learn from it.
So what was that transition of trying to figure out exactly how many people you need? Take us through that process and what you learned about that.
Well, that is just like a trial and error, I guess, to get your specific amount, and also how trained they are, because our food, what we serve, is not like your everyday food. So you have to learn names. You have to. So our servers need to study a lot. And I mean, there are some that they're
I would not do well in your restaurant.
I will train you, definitely.
Man, I would destroy the sound.
No, but from the chiles, like how many chiles, and it's like what, which names and this and that, and we use tons of different ones. So all those things that they have to learn. So if you have tons of them, they will come and go, and you have to learn about that.
When you say tons of them, you're talking about
just
the
servers mostly.
Okay,
mostly
gotcha.
Servers. The kitchen staff we trade. We changed some, but it was mostly the same people at the beginning, or they last longer. Let's put it that way.
So what things did you start doing differently to get more of a retention with your servers? To retain them, to keep them on your team.
I guess one thing is obviously what they make, the money they make. That is number one thing, obviously, because that drives them a lot. But also, I guess, at this point is to be proud of being with us, to be happy it's very high quality what we serve. So we make mistakes as anyone else, but, in general, it's high quality, and we try that.
A sense of pride, right?
Yeah, sense of pride of it's like, I like what I do.
I'm
I
on
like
this team.
Yeah, imagine, and, working in a restaurant that is like, what is good here? It's like, your turn is like, I don't know, I don't like it. You can't.
I think that's totally underestimated in this industry. Because let's be honest, you can make good money as a server or bartender in this industry. Like, you can do all right. But at the end of the day, I think what's going to attract onto yourself the best people is people want to be associated with your brand. People want it's psychographics. Like, what does working here say about me? How does this make me look when I'm on this team? Right?
That's true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. And and obviously, if you can give all that, but if you're not making business, then it's like, okay, I love you, but bye. So you have to combine those things. The other thing, it was a little bit of a challenge. Is in Mexico there are things that you do normally. And here we have to make a list of to-do list.
Like what?
Like, for example, turn off the lights. They have to be on the to-do list. It's like, really? Or turn on the lights. Or, those things is like you have to have a list of those things that I never thought on that in Mexico, for example.
You bring up a really important thing, like the importance of having checklists, right?
Yes.
And creating standards through the checklist.
Right.
And assuming that nothing's obvious, right?
Yeah, but sometimes just like, really? This is happening?
I know, and it's painful, but you have to make that assumption that just because you recognize it doesn't mean that everyone's going to recognize it. So by creating that checklist, you're doing everybody a huge favor.
Yeah.
And you're creating consistency and standards, right?
That's true.
So you painted the picture of where the business was before construction.
Right.
So you have
we're
servers,
doing
you
well,
narrow it down,
everything.
you're humming, and construction hits.
And then it's like the business went down. I mean, this bar, Los Troperos, left in the corner, and they make a big party and things like, like advertise a lot, and, the media was on top of it, like saying, oh, they left, so there is nothing on the street. So people thought that all the street was shut down. And we were there. It's like, no, we're still here. So we had to come up with, like ideas, and work out on those things about, no, we're still here. We're open and we love your business, come back. And
so you were there until 2017,
yeah, no, we closed last year in November.
Oh, okay.
In 2019.
Okay. Now, is the construction still going on in the city? But this construction ended where you were, right?
Yeah, essentially yes. And
Okay.
then eventually there were major hotels coming very, very close. So that helped us a lot. Like getting back on tracks.
Bringing like tourists closer to where you are.
And also, the crowd changed. Right now there are more bars than actually restaurants there. Actually, we were the only restaurant left because in the following street, which is Rainy 2, there is a very famous restaurant there, and they're still doing well because the people don't associate that area even as the same street with the Rainy Street. The Rainy Street is more like party area.
Yeah. So in my research or my preparation for today's conversation, I also saw that one of the challenges that you experienced early on was with the American market, assuming that you were Tex-Mex.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you overcome that challenge?
The best we could, I would say. Sometimes the people didn't understand it and they left or they didn't like it, and there is nothing I can do. Some people not even associate that is Mexican or Tex-Mex. They just say Mexican. And it's like, no, this is not Mexican
There's
food.
so many
It's like
subcultures in
yes,
Mexico.
exactly.
Yeah.
And even, I think that, Tex-Mex is part of the Mexican food. It just is from a different region, right?
Yeah.
So the people didn't understand that, and it's like this is not Mexican food. It's like
Describe what I'm going to say the name
Sure.
of the city, Oaxaca.
Oaxaca.
Oaxaca. Thank you.
Okinawa, no,
I'm so
Oaxaca.
embarrassed. Explain to us what that type of cuisine is.
Well, it's based a lot with what we got more in Oaxaca is we have a very microclimate. So that means we have things that they grow there that doesn't grow anywhere
Right
else
on
in the
water.
world.
So
Yes.
it's probably slightly tropical? Or?
No, we have. In the city of Oaxaca, we're on a high altitude, so it's a more dry climate.
Okay.
It's in the mountains, but it ranges. But Oaxaca is the state. You get exactly from the coast and also from the mountains and rivers and a little bit of jungle almost and different things. So many microclimates give you very different things. So it's the cradle of the I will say the place of birth of the corn, for example. So we have magnificent corn. We have tons of chiles because they grow different in different regions. So you get the smoky ones, you get this one and such and such. So and variety of plants and so fauna and flora, they are like very diverse. So using those herbs properly with those chiles and that corn, you get a different cuisine.
Yeah. So people come to your restaurant expecting beans, rice, and burritos.
Yeah.
And they didn't get that.
No.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
So how did you overcome that?
It's like, why don't you try this or that? Things that maybe resemble more common for the. I never compromise. We never compromise the food. Okay, so we true to Mexican food. That means we never did, those burritos or those fajitas or those things. But there are dishes in Mexico that maybe get closer, being Mexican dishes. So we put about on the menu, and so the people feel more relaxed.
Like a bridge.
Yeah, like a bridge. It's just it's close to that. It's not that, but it's close to that. So maybe you liked it, and the people began to accept it, and there were people that didn't. So that's okay.
What about education? Were you using education to?
But in a nice way, because you can't be like trying to be in this business and try to educate every person that gets into your door.
Yeah, listen, knucklehead.
So you can't. And I don't want to be like that person that explains everything or try to be the one with the reason. This is what we do. This is what we feel proud of. I hope you like it. It's more like that, and this is different from this or that. But. Trying to be nice about it, this is just different.
Okay. Any other challenges or lessons learned during this time on Rainy Street that you can share with myself and my audience to make us better people? And
well, I guess the smartness of my husband, I will say, he was smart enough to see like the challenge of the different stages of the restaurant. We're doing well, and then it comes down because the construction and such. So we were always switching the offering. Like, okay, by now we need to be more accessible. Let's don't leave anybody that leaves the door, without getting in. So let's give them something else. So I was the one working on the recipes and such, but let's try to see this, and make them stay instead of leaving because they don't understand the food.
Okay.
So it's not that we're not doing good food. It was just like, okay, let's as I said, like figure out these things.
Okay.
So I guess it was the most important challenge. And then obviously the closing, that was horrible.
So why did you close? Take us through what happened there.
Well, I mean, the prices on Rainy and the downtown, they are super expensive. So our partner, was like, okay, I need to raise the rent. And it's like, okay, well, the restaurant, as a restaurant, we can, and you're a partner, we cannot afford to be here anymore. So we just left.
How do you feel about that?
Sad.
Yeah.
It was horrible because it was a very good business, but we cannot afford to pay a rent as a bar can do.
So, does it look like Austin's steering away from this direction of things increasing in price? And, do you have any thoughts on that? Like anything that you want to bring to the conversation to create awareness?
Well, the problem is, unless you want only like bars instead of restaurants or chains instead of small places, then you need to support them. To make them stay and be more conscious about it. Not everything's about money.
Yeah.
It's very important. Don't take me wrong. We wouldn't be here if it was not,
No, it's the money is the blood in the veins.
Yes, but it's not everything.
Yeah, but it's not the soul.
Yeah, and if you are just looking for making more profit for yourself, then you are killing the business.
Yeah.
And then you want to make it local. How come? That doesn't match. The two things together don't match.
So what do you think needs to change? Just more support from local consumers, or?
From consumers, definitely, but also from the owners of these places. There are like these huge buildings. They're normally from other towns.
They're staring at the bottom line. They're wondering how rich they can get.
Yes, exactly.
How can I support my community?
And then, like the fun part of being in this neighborhood or that neighborhood will be disappearing because you're killing them.
I'm really happy you're bringing this to the conversation, because you're seeing right now all over in all major cities throughout the country, this void of retail, because nobody buys anything in person anymore. Everybody's buying online. So the only thing that works in retail space is restaurants. But
we can kill them very easily if you continue ordering online.
These developers, right? These developers, I feel like are almost like the bottom's going to fall out eventually. But these, I don't know. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Like, how do we fight against this trend of just trying to put?
Well, I don't know. I wish to have the answer.
Yeah, right. Well,
I
we
don't.
Figure it out. Anything we haven't discussed up to this point? Any key lessons or failures or things that myself or my listeners can benefit from before we talk about this latest location?
No, I guess we have covered mostly the failures, the horrible moments. As surprise! Now you don't have a business anymore, or and that happens twice. So
yeah. So at this point,
I guess we're resilient.
You've built the restaurant up twice.
Yes.
Right, from no name to
having a name.
The center of attention, and now you're doing it for the third time.
Yes.
With all the experience and all the lessons you've accrued up to this point, how did you tackle this sucker differently?
I'll say, why we get into it again? That's my first thought, right? Yeah. Well, the second is okay, we like what we do, I guess, and we still have some energy left to keep doing it. And we have good staff, and we cannot just leave them. There are people that they have been with us for quite a bit. Yeah. And it's okay, you walk away because you can, and you can make, retirement. We were actually, before this new location appeared on the map, we were thinking on retirement last December. And now it's why we didn't? Why we took the challenge again and been here. But, we enjoy what we do.
Yeah.
Some days more than others, obviously, as always. But, in general, we like what we do. And, it's a I will say like a disease that gets into your body, you have to be in a restaurant. It's hard not to be in a restaurant.
Yeah, it's part of who you are.
Yeah, we do all the things, I do other things. I do consulting, I do, trips to Mexico and things like that. But still the bug of the restaurant is in my veins, I guess.
So this location where we're sitting today, 2017.
Not the 19. No, that was last year.
Wait, I'm thinking 17 was when you.
No. We stayed there until 19. Yes.
So how much time elapsed from just a few months, or how much time did you have between
one and the other? No. Okay, it happened differently. This location was offered when we were thinking of retirement.
Okay.
We were definitely decided to retire in December.
Gotcha.
So we already talked our partners okay, the last day we will be on Rainy is gonna be November 15. And we were there when brunches in Rainy were super crazy. And this guy called my husband in the middle of the brunch. It's okay, I have this location. It's no, we're not interested. We already know what it is, and we are not interested in that and such. It's well, please come over. And we were so busy that he said, yeah, okay, we'll go tomorrow. And then it's when he hang and it's like, where are we going tomorrow? And it's like, why? I mean, we already say like we're going to retire.
And why are we going to do this to ourselves?
Exactly. And it's like, well, let's go and just we say no later. And it's like, okay, we came to the space and look at it. And it's like, okay, began to make some numbers. And it's like, well, we can do it on our own maybe. And well, with support of the bank and such. But, we don't need a partner. We can do it. And well, we're trying. That's it. And that was, so we signed, it's like everything comes together. We all, the leaser, take us in because this was a second generation restaurant and we took it as is. Okay, if the leaser, give us the permit there and also the bank, access, whatever we need to make it happen. And if everything comes together, then we will open it. Okay, perfect. And we thought it wouldn't happen, honestly, in many ways. Many days it was like, no, this is not going to happen. Well, it happened, and we signed everything on August the 30th or something like that, and we opened September 15.
Okay.
So 15 days later.
Okay. So
from scratch, we change, we paint, we do all those things.
Wow, that's incredible. So what advice do you have for somebody who's going into a second generation restaurant? Things to consider, things that maybe you didn't consider that you wish you had.
Well, I mean, it's always a surprise. There are things that work, some things that don't work. Cleaning, a lot of cleaning.
When you say things that work, you're talking about like actual physical equipment?
Yes,
or? Okay.
Exactly. Physical equipment. And I mean, you see the chairs, but you don't actually look at them with the tail, and everyone. So those things, but that happens. In a way, we knew that could happen, and it's okay. It was not major things. The flow of the kitchen it was, I guess, very different, the cuisine that they make and the cuisine that we do.
Was it Spanish?
It's Spanish, yes. So it was very different. So we have to reinvent, how to deal with that space. Come up with easy solutions and cheap solutions, which is another thing. You think that you have to invest tons of money in upfront and very expensive things. And I mean, it may work for some people, but at the end, it's not what you eat. And it doesn't tell you anything about it. I prefer a restaurant with some character and even not necessarily the most expensive things to make it real, You invest a lot of things in, in equipment and this very fancy equipment and this and that. And then at the end, it's like you could have done it with a little bit less money up front.
Yeah. So what was the character that this space had that attracted you to it?
The light is one. It has a lot of light. It's in a good area. A little bit not too. I mean, it can be seen, but not that much, which is a yes and no part of it. There's a lot of traffic essentially, and it gives us a good vibe, I guess.
Yeah, well, you said it's a good area. What makes it a space a good area?
I mean, the people who live. It's more a neighborhood area. And people dine out. We had a lot of customers coming from here, even to Oaxaca, to the first place, and then to Rainy. Yeah. And then they stopped coming because it was complicated to park and all those things.
Yeah. Well, you're, like, to paint the picture for our listeners, you're on South Lamar, which is about maybe 2 miles south from like the heart of the city, right?
Yes.
The center of the city, maybe 2 miles from where Rainy Street was.
Yeah, maybe like 3 miles, but yes,
but
yeah.
Like as a bird, as a crow flies,
yes,
maybe like 2.5 or whatever, 3 miles, give or take. So you're right on like the edge, like the metropolitan side of things.
Right
you're
there.
Still in Austin, well in Austin,
right?
But on the edge of like the city limits.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you say that, you kind of can only assume that like this area, and you're seeing it happen right now, is being built up. Like
yeah,
crazy.
Totally.
So are you ahead? Do you think you're a little ahead of the curve? Kind of like what's happening on the east side of Austin, where it's being, and like all those restaurants that were there are kind of seeing a spike in business now that people are moving in. Is that kind of what you were thinking?
Yeah, I mean it's coming. I mean, like across from us, there are like there's that big area. They're gonna make a high rise, so it's happening here too.
Yeah,
but we're already on a building.
So was that kind of playing in the back of your mind though? That like
I guess a little bit resonates. You there are many things that you may not think, but you're aware of.
Yes, people aren't going to want to drive into the city pretty soon because it's going to get harder and harder to get into the city.
Exactly.
So
either you work there or you stay there because of the we were in a beautiful location in Rainy in a way. And unfortunately, it becomes more bar thing than restaurants. But you have the convention center and two blocks away, major hotels, the fanciest hotels right there. So we had a great deal of customers from those areas.
So
from those places.
what has you most excited about this location in the future, and what are you going to the culmination of all the things that you've experienced and the like what's the approach, what's the strategy for the new location?
Oh, well, one thing that we have in our site is parking, which we have never experienced. So it's like, that's a great deal for us. And then I guess we have been so far well received in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. People is excited. A lot of people that, all faces from Rainy, that they come back and it's like, oh, we're so happy to have you here, because it was complicated to get, for us to down there. And they keep coming and they bring friends to make us, like giving the support. So that has been important. And I guess, we're trying hard.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for what you guys create. And is there anything we have not discussed up to this point? This is your time to speak to whatever's near and dear to your heart. I'm giving you my platform to stand on.
Thank you.
And get the word about anything that you want to share. Like, is there something that comes to mind that we haven't discussed up to this point?
Oh my goodness, I don't know. You tell me what we're missing. No, I feel like happy with what we have talked about. And the team is also super important here. We talk about the front of the house, but also the back of the house is super important to that you understand what you're going through, what you want, and to share it. And I'm always open to them. It's like, okay, you have a better way to do this. Okay, let's try it. And if it works, we will do it. Same with the bar. You have an idea of a drink. Okay, let's put it up. And if it works, it flies.
What happens when you give that kind of creative freedom to your people?
It is some freedom, but it's like suggestions, and then we come together and we decide what to do, like together with them. But if it's a good thing, we try it, and if everybody likes it, let's go for it.
What happens when people actually like it, but it came from somebody who was on your staff? Like, do you like, how do they react to that when they come up with something and it's received well?
Well, they're happy. I guess they feel like they're important. They're important to this.
Right?
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
It's huge. So one question I've been asking all my guests, the mission statement is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. Who are you today? Who are the women you are today versus the women you were getting started in this industry? How have you transformed?
Oh my God, that's a tough one. I guess in many ways I'm the same person. I haven't changed my vision of what the food I want to serve. That I can't. We thought on times, what if we just do cheaper things? Cheaper things, I don't mean like it for price, but just like less care in it, like less labor, because mostly the Mexican food, the ingredients can be cheap, but the labor is very, very important and is very...
It's slow food. It's very
exactly.
Intensive.
So why don't we try something more simple and it will make it more affordable, and we forget about the dreams of having a good cuisine, and we couldn't.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm in a way I'm just older, but maybe a little bit more wiser in some things.
How are you wiser?
I think I see the things in a little bit, sometimes with a little bit of distance from it, instead of being like super, like all my guts are into something. But it's like I can see it from a different perspective and analyze, all the things and the people.
What's your advice for taking a few steps back and seeing things from a distance, from the big picture?
I think it's very important. Not all the time we are able to do it because you are in the middle of the trouble or the situation, and it's hard to move out from that. But once you can, if you can, and not always I can, it's way better because you can analyze the things better.
Sometimes you need to slow down to speed up. Sometimes you need to take a few steps back to see the big picture and be like, oh, I was so close to this. I didn't even see this opportunity right over here.
Yeah, exactly.
I've loved this conversation. One more quick break to thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back to bust out a quick speed round. This episode brought to you by MarginEdge. Never deal with a paperwork nightmare again. We're back, and the first question I have for you is, what is your it factor? A habit, a trait, or a characteristic you believe most contributes to your success?
Honesty, I guess.
Honesty. What is your biggest weakness?
Oh my goodness, don't sleep well.
How are you combating that?
Well, I tried. I don't meditate. I wish I had the tranquility to do it, but I don't. And I should do that. And also be on top of everything. I like to be on top of everything. That make my life easy.
What is one question you ask or thing you look for when you're interviewing somebody, when you're building your team? What qualities are you looking for?
Well, like they look clear, that they look into your eyes, and they seem like honest on what they want. And I mean, I guess that will be
What's your biggest challenge today?
make this restaurant happen, like for real.
How are you overcoming that?
By day working hard.
Yeah. Share one code of conduct or behavior you teach your team. This is a way to be, a way to act.
I guess that the best service is the one you don't notice. Be there, but don't get that much. Like just be there for the customer.
The best service is the one you don't notice.
Right.
So, what do you mean? Like, pull back a layer on that.
Okay. Well, like for example, when you're looking at your table, I'm a server, and I'm looking at someone, and that someone is turning the head, and he's looking for something. So come and see what is missing. Maybe he needs a glass. Maybe he lost his napkin. Something. So be in there, give it to them, and without being asked to. That is the kind of thing I see.
What is one uncommon standard of service you teach your team? So it's something that's common within the four walls of your restaurant that you think is uncommon throughout the industry. A way to go above and beyond.
Well, I guess, like in our case, it's very specific. They have to know the menu very well and the terms and the words.
How do you empower your people to do that well?
Well, we have a great manager now, so don't tell him. I'm kidding. So he's always, on the training and things like that. He's very energetic about doing that. And really, he's on top.
So what tools have you seen him provide your team members?
Okay, for example, one of the things I provide to them was a glossary at the very beginning. Okay, these are the most common words that you will be finding in the menu, so learn what it is, because otherwise is when you say like, this chile is like, how do you describe the chile and things like that. So it was a very basic thing. But he has been going more and more in deep, and he makes research on his own and asks questions. All the time he's asking so many questions about everything. So that's great.
I love it. What is one book that's a must read to make us a better person or restaurant operator?
Jesus, I don't know that because I'm not into those things.
Maybe
I read a lot.
Question for your husband.
Maybe no. I read a lot, but it's just more novels and things like that. I mean, other kind of books.
Is there a novel that's impacted you and who you are?
Maybe all of them together. I guess you make a person because of what you lived. But I don't know exactly of one like that. I mean, I read tons of books, seriously.
I'll take the pressure off. What is one thing you feel restaurateurs don't do well enough or often enough?
No, I guess, each restaurant is different. So it's hard to say what they don't do. Restaurant tours, I feel like I don't know how they can handle being in a restaurant if that there are so much changes of like your people, the staff in the kitchen and such, how you can handle when your chef leaves. I have no idea. I mean, I admire them because they can handle that, but I don't know how they do.
So I just want to make
It's
sure I
like
understand.
be there, like, okay, I'm here. We're here. If somebody's missing, we can, maybe I'm not that quick anymore on the line, but I can step in.
So being present in your
Be
restaurant.
present in the restaurant. I like that, and many people, they are not, and I think that's important.
What is one service you've outsourced to? A person, basically, that you brought onto your team that has another company that you've hired to come into your company and do something for you?
Well, the accountant. She does the payroll and those things.
Okay. And can you share who she is and her?
She has a company called Tabulate. And she's across the street, so it's very convenient. Well, we inherited from the previous owner.
If you're in Austin and you're looking for a good accountant,
yes,
Tabulate,
yes, Mrs. Pickle.
What is one technology that you've adopted recently in your business that's had a huge impact on communication, efficiency, operations, anything along those lines?
Okay, like Open Table and those things that really help you out. Yeah, that's very convenient. The design and everything, it works super well.
So is that, would you say Open Table is the service that you have had a good experience with?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the last question for you. Are you ready for it?
I will try, yes.
If you got the news, you're leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom that you could leave behind for the good of humanity and for your legacy. What would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
3. Okay, let's start with the first one. Work hard.
1.
Study.
2.
And always be open to learn more.
3. I've loved this conversation. We wrap up every chat by calling somebody out. So who do you respect and admire and believe would make a great guest mentor like you made for us today?
Okay, well, I have to say the one in Mexico because I have to. It's my dear friend Ricardo Munoz. He's a great mentor. He has been a great help for me.
That was Ricardo.
Yeah, Ricardo Munoz Zurita.
Okay.
He has the best restaurants.
Try to say that.
Okay, no worries. He has the best restaurants, and he's always looking for the people, to help him and everything. But I do have one person. It's a dear friend of mine that has been very instrumental and very helpful for me. It's a restaurateur in San Antonio. It's Capi Lawton from the Capis and La Fonda. And he's a dear friend. And, I really admire him.
So that was Ricardo, and say it one more time for me.
Capi Lawton.
Capi.
Lawton in San Antonio.
Look out. Both men?
Yeah, both men.
Look out, gentlemen. I'm coming after you. I'd love to get you on the show. And how can we connect with you? Maybe we want to come join your team. Are you hiring? Are you looking for good people?
Yeah, always we're looking for new people.
What's the best way to connect?
Through the website, I guess, or, call or show up or whatever.
Beautiful. And I think that is www.elnarestaurant.com. I'll link to it in the show notes. And Chef, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, your knowledge, your mentorship. There is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
Thank you so much, Eric, for having me today.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Cheers.